Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Living with Annietude Conversations with Mike. I am sorry that we are late. Mike Paterano with me tonight, as always on Friday nights. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing great. It's a good day.
What'd you say?
It's a good day.
I apologize for being late. I was holding it together. Everything was fine, and then at the last minute, we had a little hiccup with bedtime for the kids. So that's where I got a little pushed back with time. So I'm sorry for that, for making you wait.
It's fine. Not a worry at all. I'm patient.
I need to. Where did you learn all of this patience, Michael?
In the last week.
So tell me we're going to talk about patience tonight, obviously. So do you really feel like you're a patient person?
Sometimes. I think it depends on the scenario. I'm very impatient when it comes to certain topics, and then I'm very patient when it comes to others. When it comes to growing and expanding my businesses and taking my time and making sure that everything's in place at the right times, that I'm very patient with. At least I am now. I wasn't always. When it comes to dealing with people in crisis mode or dealing with people while they're going through things or handling rough situations, I'm very patient. When it comes to impulsive, I get a little bit out of hand at times. Sometimes I just get a little nutty about it. So it's very specific on where and when those are differences.
Do you think that there's a reason that you're more patient than other times? What do you think the cause of that is? Like the differences, just the situation?
I think it's circumstantial. I think it's the situation. I think when somebody else needs me, I'm a lot more patient, right? So I think a lot of it has to do with that, right? I'm able to separate myself and be what they need me to be at that moment.
But when you need you,
when I need me, I'm usually not patient, but I'm learning it slowly, little by little. I'm getting there.
That's what's interesting to me, right? Like by far you told me last night on when we were all on, you said you're really patient sometimes and impatient other times. And I was like, when am I patient? Because I don't really think, like, every year my New Year's resolution is the same one. It's always that I want to have patience.
Well, but you're very patient with yourself, right? And you're very patient with your own growth, and you're very patient with your own evolution. Because you journal, because you take daily notes, because you're on top of that, you see the incremental changes and you value that. When it comes to those things, you're very patient. When it comes to somebody else in crisis mode, you're very patient. When it comes to you getting a little nutty, whether it's a ninja blender, potential COVID, or something like that, you get way out of control, impulsive.
Thank you for this. It's anxiety. You just named two reasons that I would be anxious.
It is, but there's specific times that you're anxious, and there's specific times that you're impulsive, and there's specific times that you're not. It all just depends.
Right. I think that people, though, are born. Some are born more anxious more patient than other people. I think it's our temperaments have so much to do with it. It's different. It's circumstantial, right? Things can happen and I can deal with it in a more patient way than another time. But at the end of the day, I'm a more high strung, high energy person that, when I'm being patient, it's a concerted effort. I've worked on that area. I've seen that through. and it's not my natural way to be. My temperament is not just like this all the time. So it's more work for me to have patience when I have it, is what I mean. If that makes any sense.
100%. And I'm the least patient with myself, right? That is the least amount of patience I have, just like my self-compassion and all those other issues that we've gone over time and time again. So it's those are things that I'm actively working on and I'm actively trying to resolve. And it takes time. I'm learning to just, see it through and write it out daily. And I don't know if I'm technically journaling, but I'm definitely writing daily.
Well, that's journaling.
It's something. It's something. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's something.
So I don't think I'm patient with myself at all, actually.
It depends on the circumstance.
But everything depends on every circumstance, though. Everything with everyone depends on circumstances. Okay, that's not enough. never like enough reason.
Okay. So, all right. So when you wanted to finish school, okay, you didn't rush through it and say, I'm going to do this turbo speed and just get done. You
I
took your,
okay.
you
Okay.
took your time. Well,
Couldn't.
but if you really wanted to, you would have found a way, right? I mean, you're Annie, so you would have found that fire and did it. I mean, it's just the truth. Just like when you were thinking about going back to school, the first thing you did was research every school in the world, do your FAFSA, and go do all these things before you even know what you wanted to go for, right? So that's Annie, right? That's how you do things. You figure it out as you go along. So, you're willing to make the mistake to move forward with it, right? Because you're willing to take that chance. So, sometimes those impulses are great, and sometimes those impulses kick us in the ass. It really just depends. Again, like you said, circumstances are everything. But when it comes to your personal evolution, you are patient. When you wanted to do the 5K, you're following those instructions and you're doing it daily. When it says take a day off, you're taking a day off, even though you don't want to. And I know you don't want to because you tell me you don't want to.
Right. And I
So
think that that's like such a nice compliment. Thank you, because that's me evolving from having zero patience with myself. So that feels really good to just have somebody that knows me well say that. Like, oh, I see that you're patient with this. It's like, wow, no one's ever called me that before.
yeah, I
You
mean,
know, I know that.
but it's like everything else, right? Somebody's got to pay attention to the nuances. Somebody's got to actually notice those things. You need somebody to actually pay attention to details.
So how are you becoming more patient with yourself? You said you were becoming more patient.
I mean, the tools that I'm learning, it's a process, and it's like you always told me to take that pause between thought and speak, right? Now I actually understand what that means. It never made sense when you kept saying it, but now I get it. Like now it's making sense because there's tools now that I'm learning how to handle it.
Where do you think like chemicals come into play, like your chemical balance in your own body versus mine or someone else's? Like,
I mean, I'm naturally, slightly bipolar, right? So I have those swings. But
you might have it, but you're not it. So you might slightly have bipolar,
right.
but you're not
So,
bipolar. Sorry,
so
it's something that like people say all the time, and it gets to me because you're not defined by that.
right. I agree. I'm not defined by many things, actually. It's I feel like it has a role to play, but again, I think it's manageable if you're managing everything else, right? Like my ADHD is a lot more under control now that I'm meditating every morning, right? My slight bipolar, right, is much more under control now that I'm meditating. I'm meditating sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. It depends on what I need that day. Today, I think I meditated 6 times. So it all depends on what that day brings. And I'm doing what I need. What my body tells me I need, I'm doing, right? Like, I mean, I'm doing this little exercise routine every morning to try and get myself in better shape. And if part of it is making me sore or making me tired, I'm not doing that part for that day because my body's telling me not to. So I'm listening to what my body wants. Unfortunately, it's making my sugar bottom out, but that's a whole different story. So, and little by little, I'm just weaning off those meds. So over time, we'll be fine. It's all about paying attention to my own nuances, which is something I've never really done. I always paid attention to everybody else's.
Seems like your self-focus now has helped you to calm down a little bit in all directions.
My self-focus has helped me in many ways, right? Like I'm not doing knee-jerk reactions. I'm not jumping off the handle. I'm not getting overly emotional over things, right? I'm processing things and just allowing things to just be for a period of time. I'm fine just being with myself right now, which is ridiculous because like 3 weeks ago, I couldn't even sit on a chair for a minute without freaking out. Like it's really complete. It's changed everything. It really has. It's changed every single way that I handle everything.
What has?
These tools that I'm learning. And the practices that I put in place, the routines that I put in place, living by a schedule, blocking my schedule out, setting aside time for the kids, doing those things you've seen my schedule. It's helped me a great deal. because it's giving me that space, that time to do what I need to do for me, do what I need to do for them, and
I
just
think
have.
it's really structure too, and that structure sometimes for especially like an ADHD mind, it allows for like it gives you like you're putting rules on yourself almost, and we crave that kind of, at least I mean I crave that kind of structure. You might not think you do, but it's helped you. So think about it. Maybe you're like, oh, I don't need that, but when you've implemented it, look what it's done.
I think I like my own rules. I definitely don't like anyone else's. That's for sure. Um, I definitely think that, implementing my own has been very healthy for me.
So we have some guests. Gabe and Kenny are here, and Kenny thinks that you're sedated, but you're still Mike. And he says that he can really be a bitch when he's provoked. So,
I think that happens to the best of us, Kenny.
I don't know what you mean.
No idea.
I hear what you're saying. I do. I just think you're simplifying things a lot. I think you're like making them very like, if someone were listening and trying to be more patient and understand how to be, I think you're like, you're seeming like it's easy for you.
It's easy for me today. It wasn't easy for me before these tools. So here's the thing, right? Like creating the structure, I think it's also doing the order, right? Like meeting somebody that impacted my life more than anyone I've ever met before. And then little by little, that person beating it into my head to do certain things on a daily basis. And then little by little implementing those things. And then taking baby steps and meeting somebody that helps me with the spiritual side of my life. Taking more steps and meeting another person that I've known for years that we now have deep conversations that, I didn't even know that she had an interest in, and it's the spiritual side. So there's all different pieces that are coming together at once, right? But I also stopped getting out of my own way in a lot of ways. Like I'm actually just being and accepting things as they come to me. So it's a whole mindset shift. I mean, what Sherry is teaching me is like changing my whole thought process. It's like doing a 4-step on my emotions and thought process. It's unbelievable. It's like doing the steps, and because it's in that manner and I've gone through the steps before, it makes it that much easier for me to understand it.
So it's like a fresh perspective on an old issue, I guess. So it's like a new perspective on old stuff.
100%. But it was because that one person opened my eyes to so much. That's the only reason I'm actually sitting here tonight. If that one person wouldn't have made that drastic impact on my life and probably changed my children's life forever because of it, then I wouldn't be sitting here and I wouldn't be doing any of these things. So that because that person opened that door for me, it then opened everything else that followed after.
Well, you have to remember that you had as much to do with it as anyone. I mean, you are the one that has to implement your actions. No one else can do that for you. So someone can make suggestions, but only you can do it.
Yeah, but I have a habit of following that person's suggestions. I mean, I even got those blue lens glasses. I mean, look at this. My eyes are blue now too, right? So, when suggestions come from somebody that's respected, then I've listened to them. And that's just it, right? Like that's just a part of it. It's almost unbelievable the turnaround in a week, right? Like, or 10 days or whatever it's been. It doesn't feel real to me at all times. But what I can tell you is my actions are completely different. The way that I'm acting, reacting, and the way that I'm handling things is nowhere near how I used to. There's not the immediate turnaround. There's not I don't feel pressed to jump on something. I don't feel pressed. I don't feel the pressure that if I get a message on LinkedIn, I've got to jump on it because if not, that person's going to disappear. My LinkedIn's blinking right now, and normally that would freak me out. I just don't care.
I don't think it's that you don't care.
I don't care about it at this moment because I'm busy. I'm just being where I'm at.
You're respecting yourself and what else you're doing. So you've created boundaries.
Oh, is that what those are?
Yes.
I'm still having trouble understanding what those even are. So we're good.
You're not. You're actually you're defining what they are right now when you say things like that. Like that's creating a boundary and saying, this is what I'm doing right now. And other things aren't going to get into that right now. That's creating a boundary. And you've done that because you've worked on your self-worth. So you can't create them if you don't think what you're doing is important, then you're important.
It's an interesting concept.
So that's how I see it. Maybe
Oh.
I'm wrong, but it just seems like that to me.
Interesting that you see it that way.
Any questions for me? I don't want it to be focused on you the whole time. So my son just texted me. He knows I'm on, this is a 10-year-old, okay? He knows I'm on the podcast from 10 to 11. We already talked about it. Where am I, 20 texts, where are you doing it? Upstairs, downstairs, I'm always in the same place. When you come up, can you grab me a snack? Please, surprise me. There's like 7 texts, please. Just bring me a snack, just one snack. Like, it's 10:30. I have a half hour left. Is now like really the appropriate time to be asking me for a snack when he's on Fortnite? It's not like he's busy.
Right.
He can't come down and get one.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is, right? I mean,
Right.
he's just gonna send him a text and send him a reply back and say, please be patient.
Okay, I'll send him that. I hope you're not starving.
I hope you're not starving. Be patient.
Oh my God. Now, I will tell you that kids are often very impatient because they're so self-centered, most children. And that's natural. That's the way they're supposed to be. They're very self-focused and they forget that there's other people in the world. And, you start to teach them that as parents and they create responsibilities and then they sort of understand and have empathy for others, unless they grow up to be sociopaths. But like most people, like normal people.
I've seen that firsthand too. So yeah.
We've seen worse.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
For the most part, please. We're going to grow up to be good people. And, right now he's teetering on like, he cares that I'm busy, but not enough to not ask me
not enough to get up and come down the stairs and grab a snack.
But like, I just meant, just bring it after because right now is a good time to ask. So now in truth, if you're looking at my life, that is something that would have bothered me more. I would have not gotten mad at him about that because, when you're a mom and you have to understand your children. And I understand he's not coming from a little jerk place. He's just coming from a 10-year-old self-absorbed, like just do it after, right? Because it's more important that I bring it than he comes down and misses the game, part of the game. So I could get annoyed by it and be like, I told him that I was busy 10 to 11 and take it personally. But instead, I don't even let that in. And this is a dumb example, but it's an example of like patience for me. Like, I don't even let that in. And I'm just like, he's going to wait because I have a boundary. This is important. Of course, I'm talking about it during this, but this is important to me. This is my space. This is my Friday night show with you. And, would a more mature person have waited to text me or even if I had a stronger boundary, maybe I wouldn't even look at my phone. There's people that do that. But I always think there's going to be like some sort of emergency, so I keep it near me. So maybe that's like, I'm trying my best to be patient, and I have to be patient with myself as well. Whereas my kids are upstairs, and I have to be available if they need me, right? So,
but if you hear him playing Fortnite at all hours of the night, odds are you'll hear him scream. So you're good. Just to let you know.
Here's all we have to do. All we have to do is turn the Wi-Fi off, just for 5 minutes.
That's it. He'll get up and get a snack. He'll get up and get a snack real quick.
He'll get a snack fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
As Gabe said last night, two things. Either his daughter's hungry or she needs a Wi-Fi password or there's something wrong with the signal, right?
Yeah, pretty much. That's the 2 times you see him.
I mean, I guess that's kind of, my son's been down the shore all week with my parents and that's what they said, but like, we don't really see him.
We didn't even know he was still here.
I don't think I ever remember. He's like, wait, yeah, he's here. He's upstairs. Looking out. And he went to the beach for a few times, but other than that, anyway, I think patience is something that has come to me with maturity and also with boundaries, but also especially being a mother. Like there's certain things that get me annoyed, but the span of how I've grown patience wise being a mom is enormous. I mean, there's just certain things like, that I just accept as a mom, and there's ways that it's not going to be exactly how I want it and I can't control it. And that's the way it is.
I mean, but you have more things than that you're patient with. You just don't acknowledge it. Like, I mean, there's many different things, right? Like You don't like when things are a mess, but if you know you're busy, you're okay being patient and giving yourself the self-compassion to know that it's not clean right that second, right? Like
Sometimes.
but that's patience. That really is, if you really break it down. So like when you look at everything that goes on in your life and with your meetings and your calls and with the client calls and podcasts and everything that you're doing, right? Like you really are a lot more patient than you think you are.
Yeah, I
Like
guess.
you're growing your business, you're taking your time with that. You're evolving as yourself, you're taking your time with that. Yes, you have impulsive moments because you're an impulsive person, but you're not letting it control you either or run you, right? Like everybody has impulsive moments, but it doesn't mean that it's running your life.
Right. That's a good point. Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, for me, it was always like sort of a chemical thing. Like I just didn't, I almost had just a really short fuse, and things would bother me that wouldn't bother, like they would set me off faster than other people. And I think you're right. Like it's just sort of dealing with life a little bit differently, having your routines, having your ways of doing things, having the boundaries sort of allows for patience around them, if that makes sense. Setting yourself up to be patient rather than just deciding I have to have patience, right? Like I know that I'm not the type of person that's I don't think I'm a really patient person. So it takes, like, again, I'm coming back to what I said before, it takes work. It's work.
But to me, you've always been patient. Like 80% of the time, you're patient.
Well, with
At
others,
least.
I'm much more patient than with myself. Like I will have really high expectations of myself.
That has nothing to do
Extremely
with, but
high.
that has nothing to do with patience.
But it
That's
does.
expectations. No, it doesn't. No,
Yes,
no, it
yes, it
doesn't.
does. Yes, it does.
How?
You keep saying no, and I'll say yes, and then we'll just keep going back and forth. No,
Right. No.
uh,
How?
it
How does that correlate?
it correlates because a lot of times when you have high expectations of yourself, you're not being patient enough with yourself and having the compassion that you need. When, for example, I expect myself to know something, let's say back in school, I would be like, why don't I know this already? And it's like, Annie, you haven't been doing it that long. Like you need to give yourself some time to figure it out. You can't, or, if I'm writing a blog, I'm frustrated that it's not coming out the way I want it to. Like I need to have, the expectation is you're a writer, make it good. And it's like, that's because I'm not being patient with myself. Like sometimes my brain isn't always going to work like that.
I don't think that. I don't think you're looking at it from the proper perspective, right? Like I have
Oh,
extremely,
my
I,
perspective's wrong.
I have extremely high expectations. I have extraordinarily high self expectations of where I want to go and what I want to accomplish in this world. I'm just giving myself the rest of my life to get there. So I'm not being impatient. I'm not being lazy because I'm building
No,
everything.
of course not.
But I also know that it takes time, right? So the only thing that the only thing that you're misjudging is the amount of time it takes. It's not that you're not being patient. It's just you're not giving yourself that time. You're patient to get to the end result. No, no, no. You're patient because you always get to the end result every time. No matter
When
what
I
the end result
memorize
is.
something.
Right. No matter what it is, you figure it out. You always do. Now, what you're misjudging is the time involved. So it's not like you're not patient with yourself or your expectations are crippling patience.
I need someone to step in here because I'm feeling like we're saying the same thing, but we're not like aligned with the way we're saying it. Like I need someone else's like view on this because I'm hearing what you're saying and I'm disagreeing with you because I feel like what you're saying is impatience. So I don't see where we're like what's off here. Is it because I fell asleep putting you to sleep and I'm
It's
a little bit not
no,
there?
it's not. No, what I'm saying is you're just misjudging your expectations. So you're not setting proper expectations. That's not like a patience. That's just your expectations are
Maybe I'm
misjudged.
not setting proper expectations because of my impatience.
Maybe yes, maybe no. I mean, I think there is a small tie there, but I don't think it's the whole picture. I don't think that that's the only reason. I think it's because you want instant gratification, your impulsiveness. So I don't think that there's. I feel like there's a tug of war, right? Like
Mhm.
you're so patient with getting to your end result, no matter how long it takes. You will get there and get it done.
That's perseverance.
So that's not patience.
I like that view. I appreciate that view. I understand what you're saying. It's
So,
perseverance as well. It's all a lot. It's all, it's not synonymous, but it all like are part and parcel of what we're talking about. You know, like they each are pieces of this. I don't think it's
so,
wrong or right.
so maybe you should start saying, I'm very patient. I'm just slightly impulsive at times. Maybe you need to reframe it in your head before anything else. I can only say that because I learned it from the best.
So have some self-compassion is what you're saying.
Maybe. I mean, it might be an idea for you.
Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. I appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
I do.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Um, so
Ooh,
what
she's
else?
stumped. She's stumped. Look at her. She just got
I'm not
stumped.
stumped. I'm just wondering where to go. I'm not stumped. I would tell you.
Wherever you want to go.
Why is it my choice? It's just as much your choice.
It's Annie conversations with Mike, so it's your choice. Run with it.
Um,
You like the
I
controlling that part, so go for it.
I don't know. I need like I need some topics here.
Kenny, give us a topic.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you, but I've never felt so uneasy about a conversation. Like I just don't feel like we're aligning. But that's okay.
We're not aligning because you're not being patient with your decision about it. You're not giving yourself the credit that you deserve. So no, we're not going to align.
I love Mike tonight, Kenny said.
I know, I see it.
Oh. Although he did say.
Yeah, he said I looked very passive or some boundaries.
So tell me about boundaries and how you've been patient enough with yourself to figure those out recently.
I don't think I realized it. I just think it's just started happening on its own.
I
I don't think I think I made a decision that I just didn't want to deal or be or have. I didn't want to put myself in certain positions anymore. And when I made that decision, it created a boundary without me even realizing it. Because I don't obviously declare them as boundaries. I'm not good at that. So,
right.
but
You're figuring out what they are. So,
right. So I'll accept the fact that I have them and that I'm creating them. But I don't think there's a big process in my head saying, "Ooh, this sounds like a great one. Let's just draw to the map here."
yeah, I don't know that people do that. I mean, maybe, but
I don't know.
you have to
I have
be,
a
I guess,
clue.
pretty evolved to consciously be like, I'm going to make a boundary right now. You know, but I understand what you're saying, where it's sort of just that's you evolving. So you have to give yourself. I mean, you are giving yourself credit for that.
Yeah.
It's an important thing to be able to separate yourself and your needs from others' needs. And I had a really interesting conversation. I had a couple interesting conversations this week. And somebody said to me, it was actually Sherry. She said to me today, I think it was Sherry. I can't remember. My brain is a little foggy because I fell asleep for a few minutes. But about people's expectations of you. Yeah, it was Sherry. People's expectations of you. And when you don't fit in their story anymore, the way that they expect you to. And what?
No, good. I'm live. Please. Thank you. Solved. I'm done.
So people react to that. It's like when you act different to someone, they don't like that sometimes. So, and that's because you're not fitting into their story of you and how you've been before. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
So it's very strange and jolting. And it was an interesting conversation because it reminds me of narratives and the stories that we play in our mind and the reasons that we have those stories and why it is we create those. And that's usually the pushback that you get when someone creates a boundary. When you create one, whether you decide to or not, a lot of times you'll get pushback from people that are used to you fitting into that puzzle the way that they see it. And that's not always their fault. It's not always a bad thing. It's just, wait a minute, you're not acting the way you've always acted. And that's weird to me. So it's jolting to the relationship and to the person, maybe in it for a good reason, maybe with good reason, but it's still, you know, I just found that conversation really interesting. Do you know, like, at all what I'm talking about?
100%. Yeah. It's very applicable to my life these days.
Explain.
Because as I guess as these boundaries are being created, others are acting differently, and others are not fully accepting how I am acting in return, and it's creating friction in different areas. Um,
And
and I don't think it's malintent from either side. I just think that it's just a new line in the sand, and I don't think that it's understood yet.
um, yeah, I don't think that there's anything, but also when you create a boundary or you create a pushback and someone reacts in a certain way, you have to have understanding of that as well. Just as that other person has to have the understanding that you're having that boundary, right? So both sides. And so you do that dance for a little bit, and then you either dance in alignment, or you don't dance together in
Right.
relationship, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it takes both sides, right? Like both sides have to come to some type of agreement that this is the new way, or, it's just not going to work, right? Like it's both sides have to get comfortable with that process. And it's a new dynamic, and it's a new change, and it's a shift in perspective for both sides, and it takes a little bit of time.
So you have to have what?
What are we talking about again tonight? Oh, patience. Yeah,
Oh
patience.
yeah, oh yeah. You have to
Yeah,
be like a
yeah.
doctor and have patience,
Well, no, the trick is both sides to have patience.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that the
Which
trick?
is
You seem like you have it all together tonight. You just know the whole shebang. You have it all figured out.
Nah, I don't have a lot of I don't have most of it figured out, but I'm doing pretty good. I'm
Okay,
getting
well,
there.
that's good. Well, I mean,
I'm moving the right direction, so
well, listen, all we have is the one direction, and that's forward. So if you can move forward and grow, like I wrote in my article, I don't know if you read it, but about change, we can either choose
I
to
did. I
grow
went and
and
I went and supported your post.
thanks.
Hmm.
I'm about done with this topic.
Oh,
So I don't need to talk about it anymore unless someone has something more important that they want to talk about.
do you want to talk about something else?
Nope. I think we covered patience pretty well.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.